Hello, everyone. It's me, David Chen, and I'm here today with at Joyo Napping because we're gonna play a game today. I'm here to play a game. We're here to play a game because the arrival of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One is less than 1 month away. The premiere happened today, as we are recording this right now. And Joy had a great suggestion, which is she said, "Hey, we're always looking for things, bonus content to make for patrons of mine at patreon.com/Dave Chen. And people at patreon.com/Dave Chen helping me to support me in doing what I'm doing, writing my newsletter, decoding everything, making all the podcasts I'm making. Really grateful for them. And so Joy suggested, hey, let's rank the 6 Mission Impossible movies prior to Dead Reckoning. And so that's what we're going to do today. This will be available at youtube.com/Dave Chensky. And if you're a patron, it will be available in podcast form. But Joy, we are doing this in a very specific way today, aren't we? What is that way?
Well, I knew that there would be discrepancies between how you would want to rank the movies and how I would want to rank them. So I said, why don't we do a draft instead? Now, I know there are other podcasts that do drafts, and it may be people have really complicated rules around this. I think we should keep it simple. There are 6 Mission Impossible movies. Let's each draft a slate of 3, and we can just take turns back and forth picking which. Obviously, you start with your strongest players. You want to put your favorite movies up top and take them off the board before the other person can get them. And then at the end, we can see who has the best slate of 3. What do you think?
Sounds great. I am not really very good at sports, but I think I can understand the draft rules as you have laid them out.
David Cho is in the chat, and maybe he will have an opinion. Frequent decoding TV contributor David Cho. And also, I believe he has been described as a media mogul to the stars.
Indeed. Welcome, David Cho.
Um, I will say, I think there's a pretty solid sized first mover advantage, first drafter advantage here. So to be fair, we're going to rock, paper, scissors for it.
Okay.
So
So we'll rock,
whoever
paper, scissors,
wins.
and that will decide who chooses first in the draft.
Yes,
Okay?
yes, exactly.
All right, here we go. Ready?
Who's counting?
You
And
can.
is it, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And is it on 3 or is it the beat after 3, which is implied 4?
I think it's rocks, paper, scissors, shoot. And on the word shoot, you then reveal what you're going to do. That's what I have done in the past.
Wow. In Chinese?
You have never heard people do rock, paper, scissors, shoot in that way?
No.
Okay. Well, I think that's a pretty fair way to
Okay.
do it.
Okay, fine. Yeah, either way, it doesn't matter. Okay, it's clear. I can follow those instructions.
Okay, so I will say rock, paper, scissors, and on shoot,
Okay.
then you reveal what your thing is, okay?
Okay, all right.
All right, here we go. Rocks, paper, scissors, shoot. Okay. I wanted to do
That
this
was a tie.
before. I wanted to do this before we started broadcasting for this very reason. How about this? Do you want to do it again? Let's try one more time, okay?
What do you think? Wait, we just give up because there was a tie?
Well, there's a massive delay between when I say it and when you actually see you do the motion. So,
Okay, let's just
let-
let's persevere. We can
all
do
right,
this.
all right, here we go. Rocks, paper, scissors, shoot.
Oh my God, a tie again. All right.
All right. Rocks, paper, scissors, shoot.
Oh,
Okay, I win.
I finally lost.
All right.
Media mogul to the stars, David Cho, is wondering why you make rocks plural. Rocks,
Look,
papers, scissors is.
I haven't played
Shoots.
this. I haven't played this game in a while. I can't maintain grammatical parallelism. I'm sorry about that. All right.
So you are
that
drafting
means
first.
I get to choose first.
Woe to myself. Yes.
Yeah.
I think I still have a shot here, but okay, go for it.
All right. Well, I think we all know what I'm gonna pick. The only movie I didn't find a graphic for, unfortunately, and now we'll need to struggle to do that. Yeah, I think my number one draft pick for Mission Impossible movies, it's got to be Mission Impossible Fallout. And here I'm putting it on the screen right now. There, Mission Impossible Fallout, right there. Yeah, I am a huge fan of this movie. This is everything Mission Impossible does distilled down to its core essence. It's the first movie in the Mission Impossible franchise that has had the same director, until Dead Reckoning, one director making a Mission Impossible movie twice, Christopher McQuarrie, who's now basically going to take the franchise to its conclusion. It has the best stunts. It has the best score. It has the best set pieces. It has the best cast. It is never boring throughout the entire thing. It feels substantial because it's a really long movie, but also, again, as I said, things keep moving. It has some of the best compositions in the entire franchise, just like artistically. You look at some of the framing in some of these shots, they're amazing. Yeah, that's my case for why Mission Impossible Fallout is going to be my first draft pick for favorite Mission Impossible movie. So
That is a very strong choice, and obviously I am slightly jealous not to have it on my team or on my slate. Question for you, how many times have you seen this movie?
I've probably seen this movie, I don't know, so anywhere between 8 to 12 times. I'm a big fan of the movie. We saw it in theaters 5 times, and then I think I've seen
Yes.
it at least 3, 4, 5 times subsequently. So, yeah. People in the chat are saying, David Cho saying, I can't believe he's not talking about the arm reloading. That's true. I mean, that was an amazing fight scene overall, including arm reloading and everything. Also, another thing I should say, this has arguably some of the most the most gorgeous locations in the Mission Impossible franchise, or at least some of the most memorable or famous locations where there's a
Which
massive.
locations are you thinking of?
The Tate Modern Museum, the Arc de Triomphe.
He's in an elevator shaft in the Tate.
And he's in it.
Okay. And he goes around the Arc de Triomphe. Okay.
He goes. He runs on the outside of the Tate. Okay.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, Arc de Triomphe.
I think falling through the sky over Paris, which is a CG version of Paris, but still is quite spectacular.
Yes,
I think Paris looks incredible in this.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, and I need you to really be with me in this moment. It would not have been my number 1 draft pick.
What? Oh, so then I played right into your hands then. By the way, this is not what Joy said to me in the pre-show talk. She said, okay, well, if I get the first draft, I'm choosing Fallout. So.
Well, I said, for example, and I was trying to fake you out.
Wow. Lie. You sit upon a throne of lies, Joy. Okay.
I sit upon a throne of playing the game of Thrones. Okay. My number 1 choice would actually be Ghost Protocol. The reason is that while Fallout has some of the most incredible action pieces, the plot is truly, truly gibberish. The relationship with Ilsa is completely wasted. I mean, Rebecca Ferguson can do a lot with sort of one arched eyebrow or one sort of very small motion of her head being like, oh God, I got to shoot you again. But Vanessa Kirby shows up to be Tom Cruise's daughter figure. Oh, wait, no, actually love interest. I mean, it's that part is embarrassing to me. And the Syndicate being kind of turning into the Apostles, and you got to get the nuclear plutonium and then the Kashmir. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So it is really incredible as a propulsive set of action sequences, but to me as a movie, it does not hold together as much as some of the other ones. For me, Ghost Protocol is honestly, it's not a wonderful movie from a plot perspective either, but you get the sort of creation of this new nuclear family of Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, Tom Cruise, and extra person TBD, could be Jeremy Renner, might not be, in the future. And it really establishes this series vernacular of how they're going to one-up themselves in terms of stunts by having the Burj Khalifa figure so prominently in it. I also think it's got possibly the best instance in this movie series of Tom Cruise running really fast, because he is running really fast away from a dust storm. So he's not just like trying to chase somebody down who is ahead of him. He is like running from a force of nature. Um, and I actually think I don't know what happened with Paula Patton's career. I actually thought she was terrific in this as well. So I liked kind of like the B team plots. They didn't feel as like unnecessary and tacked on. A lot of times the B team feels like they're only there to be in danger to give Tom Cruise something to do. But like Paula
Mhm.
Patton actually has a great fight scene.
Mhm.
So there you have it. Ghost Protocol is my anchor pick.
I love this movie as well. There are many things I like about this movie. First of all, I think it was it was the first. There's a lot of firsts with Ghost Protocol, right? First movie of the Mission Impossible series to have a subtitle, and I have to say, of the subtitles, Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, and Fallout. This is probably my favorite subtitle. It ties in with kind of the plot of
Okay.
what.
Well, that just feels like very faint praise compared to all the things I just said.
Yeah, look, I'm not trying to one up what you said. You said it very articulately. I'm trying to carve out my own things that you didn't say. Okay, Joy.
Okay, okay, okay.
Anyway, I really like the subtitle, and I like when the every single time Mission Impossible subtitle is uttered in a movie, it's generally very memorable. And of the utterances, Ghost Protocol is my favorite utterance, which is I think
Mm,
it's Tom Wilkinson says like the president has initiated Ghost Protocol, and it's like oh that, woo, got some chills
yeah,
from that.
yeah.
Um, this Ghost Protocol has probably my favorite or second favorite triggering of the Mission Impossible theme song, which is basically Tom Cruise. It's like almost diegetic. Like Tom Cruise is breaking out of the prison, and he says, "Light the fuse," and then "Light the fuse" like leads into a CG
Yeah,
recreation
yeah,
of the theme
yeah.
song. It's one of my favorite. Like, look, Mission Impossible Fallout has a great cut to theme song. It's like very abrupt and electrifying, but I remember feeling so jazzed and excited when Tom Cruise said "light the fuse," and then like it kind of transitions into the main theme. Ghost Protocol has a very unique negative view of technology. Virtually
Mm.
every single piece of technology in the movie fails in some way, and I think that's on purpose, and that's very amusing to think of. Like like the phone he's using, the
The
gloves.
cups to climb, the
Yeah, the
Burj
gloves to
Khalifa.
climb the
Yeah.
Burj, like mask making stuff fails. Everything, like virtually every single piece of technology fails, and I think that's just like a funny approach to the kind of Mission Impossible ethos. And yeah, this was really the beginning of like these major, gravity defying stunts in this franchise, and the Burj
This
is
is, I
like
think, where you start to see Tom Cruise's brand as you can't believe this guy is getting older and doing this shit
yeah.
for real.
And like
Start to
like
happen.
in danger, like arguably endangering his life in order to do so. So, what else do I really love about the
Would
I
this have
agree.
been your next pick?
I don't think so. I think my next pick would have been what I'm gonna pick next, which you'll find out
Okay.
momentarily.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
but this is definitely up there. This is definitely in my top three um, Mission Impossible movies. Is Ghost Protocol. So. I feel like there's one or two other things that I really love about this. Also, I think this is the first time when they actually shot in full IMAX cameras for a Mission Impossible movie. So like the bird scene and a few other scenes were like in full IMAX, which just looked amazing if you had an opportunity to see it on a full IMAX screen. I don't think Mission Impossible 3 did that, if I recall correctly. So yeah, it was a really impressive use of IMAX. It's I would argue it was like this came out around the time I remember of like Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan doing stuff. Like it's up there in terms of how effectively it uses IMAX, in my opinion. Um, so yeah,
Well, to just say why this anchors my list, if I could only show people one movie that would have to encapsulate the spirit of the entire
mm,
franchise, like it's not the single most amazing stunts, it's not the single most death-defying whatever, but I think it has the right balance of all the things. So, um, yeah, I think it is. If you had only one that to distill all the essence of what the franchise was and becomes, this is the one I would take. So I'm thrilled to have it on my slate.
It's a very strong choice. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Okay, so I have at this point drafted Mission Impossible Fallout. You have drafted Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Look, um, the heart says Rogue Nation, but the mind and therefore the thing that must win out says it's got to be Brian De Palma's Mission Impossible 1 for me next.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And the reason for this is I think it's easy to forget how big of a deal this movie was when it came out in 1996. Um, this movie made almost $500 million in 1996 money. It was like one of Tom Cruise's first movies that he also produced. And so it was really him coming into his own as like trying to figure out what kind of movies he wanted to make. And this movie did a lot of bold things really well. I mean, first of all, you have one of the beloved stars from the Mission Impossible TV show, on which this film is based, ends up being the villain of the movie. That's just a really baller move that is bound to alienate some of your hardest core fans. If they tried something like that today, the internet would rebel, but because there was no internet really back then, or there was an extremely crude version of the internet that you see in this movie, people didn't, they couldn't gather together and try to boycott a film because Mr. Phelps was the villain in this movie. It had an amazing trailer. It has kind of like a like not very much action, but when there is action, I mean, there's basically one big action scene at the end, which is the train sequence, right? Instead of this action scene, it has these other kind of set pieces, and the sequence when he breaks into the CIA to get the knock list is like one of the most
So iconic.
memorable, yeah,
Yeah.
one of the most iconic sequences in all cinema history. Like, it is, it was so culturally relevant. Like, you can't even really understand unless you were around at the time that like this was like parodied on like SNL and like the Oscars. I'm not necessarily exactly those places, but like literally like everywhere you'd look, there'd be like someone imitating this scene where Tom Cruise like falls down and is like completely horizontal, and like barely escapes with his life. It was like so iconic. Um,
So
and
where you're saying there's not action, I mean, I guess it's not like a car chase or many moving parts type action, but I would consider that an action sequence. And there are way more spy thriller sequences that I think are really well executed. Because sometimes it's hard to like track that sort of heist feeling, even though because they're doing like so many little mini heists
yeah,
and have a sense of like the tension and stakes. And I think that in some ways, this movie, if you take it out of the franchise, sort of stands alone as like this really sort of satisfying little, way to spend 2 hours, because all the bits are quite delightful, including like Kristen Scott Thomas looking super gorgeous and, um, the banter between the team. At the time, Tom Cruise feels more junior and it's like a lovely camaraderie. So you really feel the sort of post Cold War spycraft angle of it a lot more.
totally. I mean, what Brian De Palma made is essentially a psychological thriller with spy action elements, right? Like that was really and that's really a bold decision. It's a psychological thriller. Like it has the visual language of psychological, split diopter shots, flashbacks, like all the stuff that you'd expect in those kinds of movies. But done in a movie that's called Mission Impossible. Also, pretty freaking bold to assemble this cast of characters that has people like Kristen Scott Thomas and Emilio Estevez and a lot of like really good looking people who are like, I like these people, and then freaking kill them off in the first 20 minutes of the movie. That's just a really bold move. And you gotta admire it. You gotta admire it. So I love Mission
And
Impossible
I
2.
think the aquarium restaurant is another like visually
Yeah.
iconic. Again, I probably would call that an action scene.
Yeah, I mean, is it an action scene? It's tough to say. It's definitely a set piece. And what's amazing is I remember watching the making of the aquarium scene, and I watched them shoot it, and it took them literally like 20 seconds to shoot it. Right, like they detonate the thing, and then Tom Cruise runs away, and that it's over in 20 seconds. But like in the movie, they have like it's done in slow motion. They have like coverage from all these different angles, and so that sequence takes like almost like a minute or minute and a half to play out. Uh, but it's not an action scene in the sense that there's no shootout, and it's just one thing one big thing that happens. But it's a great sequence, and the lead up to the sequence is also amazing. Kittredge kind of interrogating Ethan Hunt, these kind of
Yeah.
Dutch angles below, from like he's shot from below, very imposing, very upset, and then
And
of
also
course,
like replaying that the same people in the
yeah,
were at the opera house or whatever it was earlier, the
yeah.
reception. I don't know, whatever
You
fancy
haven't
gala
seen me
like
very
thing.
upset. Kittredge, you haven't seen me very upset. An amazing line. Like a lot of great lines of dialogue in the whole movie. The train sequence at the end, really, really impressive. Helicopter chase goes into the tunnel with Ethan Hunt. All that stuff. A lot of it is visual effects, but it still holds up today, in my opinion. Like there is enough practical stuff in there that I think it still really is effective. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this one hurts to lose. I was
Oh,
sort of
and
hoping you
also
would pick something else.
Vanessa Redgrave as Max, just pretty
Yes.
amazing. So, uh,
Vanessa Kirby's mom.
yeah, I guess. So,
Isn't that what she's supposed to be in the
who, by the way,
canon?
was also kind of sexually interested in Tom Cruise's character in that
I
movie.
think
So,
Vanessa Redgrave must have like frozen her eggs, given them to a surrogate, and had Vanessa Kirby at age 60.
don't know the ages, but anyway, I mean, when I say sexually interested, I mean she was like flirting with Ethan Hunt. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, Mission Impossible 1, incredible movie. It was a huge, huge deal at the time, and hugely successful. So many iconic sequences, but also made a lot of bold choices, like killing off a bunch of the characters, making a beloved character from the original TV series the villain. Just all around, like kind of the best of what blockbuster filmmaking can be. It can be challenging, it can be fun, thrilling, satisfying, all the things.
I think this movie is like infinitely rewatchable, but I have one problem with it, which is that they basically start off with Ethan Hunt being betrayed by his own government and he's got to kind of go rogue. And that is largely the plot of at least 3 or 4 other movies in this franchise, to the point that Henry Cavill's character says in Fallout, how many times has Hunt's own government disavowed him, betrayed him? How many times can that happen before somebody snaps? And I think he's just trying to be an audience surrogate of like, how many times do we have to live with this plot line?
It is true that in the majority of, I want to say the majority of Mission Impossible films, it's usually someone from, or at least like, at least half, at least the first 3, and I think probably.
He's hunting a mole. He's being
But
accused of being the mole. Like it's just too much.
half or more of the Mission Impossible films, someone from the government is the villain. Basically, someone from the IMF or the government is the villain. So, or former IMF or something like that. So, definitely in the first 3, and then I haven't thought through 4, 5, and 6 quite enough yet. But
Also
yeah.
6, also
Yeah.
4,
Yeah,
and kind of 5, right? Like
there
it's
you
just I mean I could be mudging that in my head, but yes. Anyway, okay. Well, I really wanted number 1 as my next choice.
All right, so if you're just joining us, we are drafting our favorite Mission Impossible movies. I have chosen Fallout. Joy has chosen Ghost Protocol, and I have chosen Mission Impossible 1. So now it's Joy's turn to choose her next favorite Mission Impossible movie.
I think I'm going to take some heat for this one. But I'm going to go with number 3.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with number 3.
This is the one where we start what I call the Michelle Monaghan MacGuffin arc.
Yes. An arc that would come to a conclusion 4 movies later, basically, right?
Yes.
Or 3, depending if you count this one.
But I think that this is the one in which Michelle Monaghan is actually given enough to do that this doesn't feel like she's just like the blurry crying wife in the distance. Philip Seymour Hoffman is effing great in this thing. Like he brings actual menace, which I never feel I never feel from any of the baddies that have a plan to blow up the world like a genuine sense of threat, and I don't even wanna be in the same room as Philip Seymour Hoffman during this movie because it's so uncomfortable. Um, so I think this movie is a little bit it feels like it was trying to take the franchise into a direction of, not spy thriller, but more just like a not romantic thriller, but a thriller. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Um, but I think, um, as a result, it almost feels soapier, like a drama of its own
Mhm.
that doesn't have as much of the international intrigue. Not that they don't travel internationally, but yeah, I think for Philip Seymour Hoffman especially, and Tom Cruise dressed as a priest, I'm gonna take number 3.
Yeah, Mission Impossible 3, I felt like Mission Impossible 3, and in particular the Vatican heist, was the first time watching a Mission Impossible movie that it felt like what Mission Impossible was supposed to feel like. Because Mission Impossible 1 and 2 were both Tom Cruise is going rogue and doing his own thing. Ethan Hunt's going to do his. Mission Impossible 3 was like one of the first time, other than Mission Impossible 1, the first time for the opening sequence, but like everyone dies. So it's like, that's not a great feeling. Mission Impossible 3, when they did the Vatican heist and they like accomplished the mission, that was the first time I was like, oh, this is what a big budget version of Mission Impossible is supposed to feel like. All these spies working together to pull off like an extremely intricate heist with lots of cool gadgets. Um, and so I'll always appreciate Mission Impossible 3 for that. And like, everyone has a really specific purpose and they all do it really well. They corner
But do you
Seymour.
agree it has like a pulpier tone? Like a pulpier, soapier tone because of
Um,
Michelle Monaghan?
yeah, I think so. And I think the ending of the film would really support that reference, where it's like everyone's just backslapping each other and hanging out at the IMF, which is no longer secret, I guess. It's like one of the most bizarre endings for a Mission Impossible movie I can recall, which is
Yeah.
like everyone
It feels
because
like a Fast and Furious franchise, like everyone's having a
absolutely
Corona
everyone's like
barbecue.
it's like kind of like freeze frame, like yeah, everything's great now. Like it's a really weird ending. But yeah, Michelle Monaghan's character was like a huge part of the marketing for the film. And like the idea that Ethan Hunt actually had personal stakes was a huge
Yeah.
part of the movie.
And then
Um,
clearly they didn't know what to do with her after that.
a lot of
She's
memorable
quote
sequence.
unquote safe, and we're gonna just leave her off in the distance for the most part until we just finally resolve that at the end of 6.
But there are a lot of great set pieces in the movie. There's obviously the opening set piece where he has to break Kerry Russell out, and then it's followed by this big helicopter chase. The Vatican scene is like one of my favorites. And then the final sequence where Tom Cruise is, jumping off of buildings and breaking into this place to get the rabbit's foot. Oh, that was another thing that was really funny about the movie
The rabbit's
is
foot?
they didn't show him getting the rabbit's foot. That was like a really funny kind of build up to him getting there, and then they just don't show it. And like that was a kind of funny subversion of what you expect from a Mission Impossible movie. Um,
Plus just calling it the rabbit's foot is amazing.
yeah. And that leads to the last like 30 to 45 minutes of the movie is just basically one big long action scene, as many of these movies are. So yeah, this movie did decently well. A lot of people think it saved the Mission Impossible franchise and
Yeah,
allowed it to keep
absolutely.
going. But it made it,
Absolutely.
it made less money than some of the previous entries, but a very respectable $398 million worldwide. Also, Alec Bernal in the chat says, "Great Tom Cruise running scene in Mission Impossible 3." This is when I really felt like there were really. I will say this: Mission Impossible 3 was the first movie where I really felt like I understood that Tom Cruise could run fast. You know, because there's this long continuous shot of Tom Cruise running,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and yes, he's run in other movies before, and I'm not saying he wasn't athletic before, but I was like, oh wow, like they're really showing him running for a really long time, and obviously Tom Cruise running has been a core part of his persona ever since then. So
I read that he has been clocked at 17 miles an hour, which is a sub 4-minute mile.
Mm, yeah.
He's like old enough to be my dad. Anyway, I also cannot run anywhere near a 4-minute mile.
I will
All
say,
right,
the thing
so
that like I still don't know how I feel about it is um the movie has a really memorable opening. He's like an explosive charge has been placed in your head. You need to tell me if you stole the rabbit's foot or not. And like, where's the rabbit's foot? And he's like, I gave it to you. And you later learn at that point in time that Ethan Hunt has given it to him, and so you'd be very confused if you went to all this trouble to give Philip Seymour Hoffman the rabbit's foot, and then he's like, "Where's the rabbit's foot?" That would be like very upsetting, And I think Tom Cruise plays that off really well. But then later on, you find out basically like that didn't happen. Like what you saw was happening wasn't what was happening. So it basically commits kind of two crimes in one go. Crime number one, to quote Rick and Morty, stories should start where they start. Don't start me in media res and then flash forward to the beginning. Cheap way of kind of getting the audience going early on without actually doing the work. And then crime number two is it was like deceptive what it actually did. Like um it wasn't on the level in terms of what it was showing you. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it makes you think that Philip Seymour Hoffman's about to detonate this explosive charge, but it's not that someone intervenes and stops him. It's that he was never going to detonate the charge. You know what I mean? Like that was never part of the plan. So anyway,
this is a guy who we just said was disavowed, or the government was the enemy in like 4 to 6 out of 6 films. So I really feel like these crimes, as they were, feel kind of very average for this franchise. Like it's not what they're trying to lean into. Okay, can we take a minute to kind of just check where we are on the field? You have Fallout and the first Mission Impossible. I have Ghost Protocol and number 3.
Yes.
I feel like our slates are very even.
Arguably.
And a lot hinges on your next choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, I am very nervous about it.
Yeah. By the way, your hair is a little bit, you kind of, yep. There you go.
I am so nervous that my hair is standing on end.
I mean, it's got to be Rogue Nation, right? That's got to be my.
Fuck you, man.
All right. What's great about
Rogue? Oh no.
What's great about Rogue Nation? What's great about Rogue Nation? Christopher McQuarrie's first Mission Impossible film. The introduction of Ilsa Faust. And I remember listening to the commentary and Christopher McQuarrie basically saying like, every Mission Impossible, like Bond girl, there's like Mission Impossible girls who are introduced wearing like spectacular dresses, and he's like, well, that's like, very like, like I don't want to do that. That's too cliche at this point. And then, of course, Ilsa Faust wearing like the most amazing dress during the opera sequence, and makes great use of it.
And literally comes dripping out of a pool wearing a bikini. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that too, but I don't remember that part. It's mostly the dress in the opera sequence that I remember. So yeah, that the opera scene is like one of the best scenes in Mission Impossible franchise. Apparently it took like 2 weeks to film this one like 10-15 minute sequence. Ilsa Faust, obviously a major character that is going to play a huge part in the Mission Impossible Endgame. She has the goods. She can do it all. She's gorgeous. She has acting talent, and she can do the action as well. So she's just, the complete package. And yep.
I really liked her in this film, and I liked her more in this film than I liked her in Fallout because she was given more to do. But it is very painful to me that they force incredible actor Rebecca Ferguson to wear a thigh-high slit dress and then improbably hoist that leg all the way up to this like railing.
She needs it to put the gun on, Joy. She needs to prop the gun. What's she gonna prop the gun on air?
Okay, if the shooter had been a man, would he have taken that same stance? Just wondering, would it have split his pants? His tight tuxedo pants? I think that you'll notice, like, in Fallout, she wears a freaking brown pantsuit to a rave and, like, walks around, often not even wearing heels. She just has a much more functional wardrobe as
Hmm.
she is sort of desexualized in the next one. I don't know if it's so she doesn't compete with Michelle Monaghan and Tom Cruise, like, rounding out his feelings of love and saying goodbye to his ex-wife. Um I'll be curious to see what direction they take her. If she continues to be sort of a sexless, ultra, almost like autocrat kind of version of an assassin,
Uh-huh.
it is like kind of where she was in Fallout. But I love Rebecca Ferguson, so I'm happy to see her in any form.
Alec Bernal says Joe Kramer composed a really great villain theme for Rogue Nation. Um, I agree. I mean, most of the scores have been amazing. My favorite work has been Lorne Balfe's, though. Like, of all the scores, Lorne Balfe, who did Fallout, like by the time I watched Mission Impossible Fallout, I've heard so many freaking renditions of the Mission Impossible theme for decades. Like, I've heard I've heard like U2 do Mission Impossible. I've heard Limp Bizkit do Mission Impossible. I've heard Michael Giacchino do Mission Impossible. Like I heard so many, and I was just like, I don't. I think I know what a Mission Impossible variation could be, but Lorne Balfe has really showed me that wow, the Mission Impossible theme can be. He's almost like somebody who's like a chef who's working with like one ingredient, like green onions or whatever, and he's like, I know you feel you've had green onions every single conceivable way, but what if I could make blah?
An
What if
emulsion.
what if I
Yeah,
could make an
a foam.
emulsion? Yeah, what if I could make an emulsion with it? What if I could make what if I used nitrogen, liquid nitrogen, and made it into an ice cream? He's really expanded my mind as to what the Mission Impossible theme can do. So anyway, Joe Kramer's great, Rogue Nation's great, but like Lorne Balfe, who did the score for Fallout and also I assume Dead Reckoning Parts 1 and 2, he has taken it to the next level for me.
He did
But
Maverick too, right?
yeah, he
Top
did
Gun
some
Maverick.
work on Maverick. Yeah, he was one of the people who worked on the music of Maverick. So, okay. Also, Alec Bernal says might be my favorite mission assignment scene when he receives the
Yeah,
briefing in a
that
private
one's great.
vinyl record listening booth. Yeah, that was very cool.
That feels very, again, like Cold War throwback. I did really like that.
I gotta agree with David Cho here, which by the way is not a phrase you'll hear me say very often. But the underwater thing was cooler as a behind the scenes featurette than as something in the movie. David Cho says, and that's
I
my one
agree.
big beef with. I have a couple beefs with Rogue Nation actually. First of all, the coolest stunt in the movie feels almost completely inconsequential. Like it happens in the first 10 minutes. He's hanging off the side of a jet, but it doesn't really tie in with the plot very much. Uh, in a substantial way. It's not like, oh, that is the culmination of everything that he needs to do. Just a weird decision to have that be kind of the opening scene as opposed to have it tie into something bigger. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, there's obviously a big stunt that happens that's advertised in all the trailers and the poster. And it would be very odd if that was the first thing that happened in the movie, I have to say. Like, you just wanted to build up to, hey, there's a reason why this is so important for him to do it this way. Also, the underwater scene I think was a dud for me because I've watched the featurette and Tom Cruise spent a lot of time learning how to hold his breath for like 5 minutes or whatever to do that stunt. But the whole thing looks like it's CG. The whole thing looks like it's done to look like one long continuous shot. I'm sure it's very hard to do, but like I never really bought it that was a thing that was happening. That he was actually underwater holding his breath for that long. So two
It
big
wasn't
sequences.
bad. It just didn't like live up to like that extra wow of like superhuman endurance or superhuman athleticism that you see from him so often that is it's like self-evidently at least quasi real. Do you know what I
Well,
mean?
I mean, just like it just. I would just say it looks fake. It looks fake. Like when he's underwater, it looks like he's in a CG environment. And that's often how a lot of these scenes get done, which is when he skydived in Fallout, he actually skydived for real, but the background was replaced and fake, right? But like that actually looked pretty convincing. And then in
Extremely, yeah.
Rogue Nation, it didn't look very convincing in my opinion. So
Maybe like the lighting or whatever that has to be adjusted because he obviously was really underwater
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, kind of makes it look a little too like, especially when the ID cards are floating by him or whatever it is the
Right.
MacGuffin thing is he's
Yeah.
trying to chase in that scene.
But there's some great
Yeah.
there's some other great moments in the movie, great car chase sequence. Obviously, the opera scene is great. Alec Baldwin's speech about how Ethan Hunt is the living manifestation of destiny is one of the all-time great lines from the franchise. So,
And this is the
it's
one where we get Tom Hollander at the end, right?
yes. Yes.
Yes, which I did enjoy.
Yeah, so there's a lot of great stuff, and then I believe they encase Sean Harris in a pane of glass or like a box of glass at the end of this one, and so that's like a cool way of trapping the villain, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of great things about the movie. Not saying it's bad in any way, but I was kind of disappointed at two of the biggest moments of the movie, unfortunately. So that's my number 3 pick, Rogue Nation.
Well, I think, you know, the truth is that I find it's not gonna be popular opinion, but I find Rogue Nation pretty skippable.
Interesting. Okay.
I think there are things in it that are fine, you know, and that work fine for me, but overall, I think it is non-essential. However, it is still better than the movie I am forced to take with my final pick, which is the John Woo directed Mission Impossible 2. Wah, wah, wah. I'm so sad that I have this on my slate. Um, I think my feelings about this film can sort of be summarized with the word flamenco. There is, you know, just so much unnecessary slow-mo and swirling, whether it's like flamenco dresses, Tom Cruise's extra floppy hair, motorcycles or cars in the dust, you know, sort of circling each other. Um, Thandie Newton and the whole plot, it all feels kind of like out of some other very conventional Bond kind of series. Um, and mercifully, they kinda let this one go. I admire John Woo, I don't wanna shit on him, but this thing is just like, ugh, something like jazz guitar, you know, it's probably for someone, it's just not for me.
Okay. I would have put this pretty close to the end of the list as well. Let's talk about some of the good things about it.
What do you
Okay.
mean? You had the chance to put it close to the end, but you took a different one instead, so you
Well, if
would
I
have
had
put
had a
it at
list
the
of
end.
six, if I had a list of six, Joy, which we're doing the draft thing. So,
Wait, what would
um,
you have put below this in theory?
no, this probably would have been my number 6. Now that I think about it, yeah. Um, okay. Here's what's great about Mission Impossible 2. First of all, it established Mission Impossible as a franchise where directors could put their distinctive stamp on it until Chris McQuarrie took over. But for 5 movies, Mission Impossible had different directors each time, and this kind of established that trend. Tom Cruise has great hair in it. Okay,
No, he doesn't.
Dougray
He has a
Scott.
lot of hair.
Dougray Scott is a great villain. You know, chewing up that scenery.
Anthony Hopkins is there for
Anthony
some
Hopkins
reason.
shows up. There's that amazing climbing scene, which, by the way, was
Okay,
also
the amazing climbing scene is amazing. That is the one amazing thing about it.
endlessly parodied. You know, um,
With the sunglasses and he throws them off to
the
get the
way it's
message.
so
Yeah,
like
incredible.
90s. The way it happens is he's out climbing and then a helicopter comes in and like shoots like a miniature missile and out pops a set of sunglasses that he uses to give his mission. So it's like kind of cool, kind of cool.
I think it's very sexualized. Everything is very like arena rock. Yeah.
A lot of good slow motion, a lot of good John Woo slow motion, and there's probably more slow motion in this movie than in any
And a
other
tremendous
Mission
amount of slow
Impossible
motion.
movie. Limp Bizkit did the song. A lot of good motorcycle work in the movie. A lot of good motorcycle work, you know?
I feel that maybe this is like honestly best appreciated with drugs.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like it could actually be a great experience with the right drugs.
I'll just say when I saw this as a high schooler, uh, I thought this movie was amazing. Because I was such a big fan of John Woo, and the idea that John Woo could like apply his skills
Yeah, yeah,
to an
yeah.
American audience. Because I think he
Yeah.
made this. I think he made this. Was this after or before Face Off? Um, but so Mission Impossible 2 came out in
Good
2000,
question.
and Face Off came out in 1997. So it was
98?
like
Oh,
he had
oh.
made like Broken Arrow. Face Off was awesome, and then like he'd made Mission Impossible 2, and it's like wow, like this guy who made these amazing movies, Hard Boiled, The Killer, Better Tomorrow, all these movies, like he is finally like now the Western audience can have like what his work is, and the movie was a massive success. I think it was like one of the, if not the highest grossing movie of that year it came out. So it was a huge, huge deal. But I would describe it not as necessarily bad, but as very dated. You know, it's
Yeah,
very
like
of
I
its
just
time.
think bucket hats and like cropped midriff Britney outfits. Do you know, it just feels like of this exact like it could not have come out 2 years before and it could not have come out 2 years after.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on Mission Impossible 2? Tandy
Uh,
Newton was awesome. I thought. You know, you can understand why Tom Cruise would want to fall in love and leave the IMF for Tandy Newton. So, okay, I
um
guess just me.
yeah, I mean, do you want to trade any
No.
films specifically for numbers for the 6th slot? For Mission Impossible 2. Okay. Okay. Well, I think this movie in my view was going to be the anchor on someone's slate, and the anchor by which I mean the weight pulling it down. I think probably overall you may have ended up with a slightly better slate than I did.
So my slate is Mission Impossible Fallout, Mission Impossible 1, and Mission Impossible
5.
5,
Rogue
Rogue
Nation.
Nation. Yeah.
I think mine is really quite a buffet of a variety of styles. If you think about Ghost Protocol number 3 and number 2, oh, that's a lot of
The
range.
middle chapters. The middle chapters of the Mission Impossible franchise. Yeah, there's certainly a wide variety in there, The best and worst of what Mission Impossible has to offer, right?
Yeah,
In that
yeah.
bucket. Yeah.
Oh, well, so folks are wondering when the Mission Impossible 7 Dead Reckoning Part 1 is coming out. And it's in the news today because it has had its premiere in Rome. The critical embargo has lifted today, so you may see critic reactions starting to come in. But this movie actually isn't coming out for another 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
So I think it's July 12th.
July 12th is when it's coming out. I'll be seeing it sooner than that, and I'm very excited to. I will be seeing it shockingly soon, and I'm very excited to check it out. So we are gonna have to redo this list again, probably not after Dead Reckoning Part 1 comes up, but probably after Dead Reckoning Part 2.
Well, here is my question for you. Throughout the pandemic, you made a lot of noises about how you just wanted to live long enough
Yeah,
for you to see Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
correct.
And now that you're getting very close, was it worth it? The masking, the Clorox wiping of the packages,
I don't know.
staying the F away from other people.
I don't know. We'll have to see when the movie comes out.
What is the bar by which? I mean, you didn't say it. You had to see it, and it would have to be good.
Okay. Oh, well, I think I just assumed it would be good. Here's what I would like. Here's what I'm looking for when I see Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is I would like it to be as good as Mission Impossible Fallout, or even if it's just 10 to 15% worse than Mission Impossible Fallout, I'll be very happy.
So it would have to be at least as good as Ghost Protocol, in your view.
Sure. Why do you say again?
Well, but so you drafted Fallout 1.
Yeah.
Like, which of these movies would it need to be at least as good as?
I'm saying Mission Impossible Fallout. It would be that would be the bar.
Yeah, but you
by
said
which
10 to
it's measured.
15% worse would be okay. So I'm just wondering, what is 10 to 15% worse than Fallout?
I get, I don't know if any, maybe my second choice, Mission Impossible 1, is 50% worse. I don't know. No, but yeah,
Ugh.
between Mission Impossible 1 and Mission Impossible Fallout, that would be great. That would be amazing, So
Media Mogul to the Stars is asking what you're going to live for next. And I can tell you the answer. He's already moved the goalpost. He wants to live long enough to see Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 2.
Yes, I can't say what I want to live for until next, but I will say it rhymes with Med Meckening Mart Moo. David
Okay.
Cho.
And also our marriage.
That too. Okay. Any closing thoughts, Joy?
No, this is fun. I would say First Mover Advantage was very large, larger than I thought it would be. I really was kind of counting on if I lost the, rock, paper, scissors, that um, you would have enough of a thing for John Woo that you would take that one off the board. And sadly, I was wrong.
A lot of people in
Yeah.
the chat also were anticipating that, but Dave Chen is full of surprises. So, all right, folks. Well, thank you for watching this at youtube.com/DaveChensky, and you also may be listening to this in podcast form at patreon.com/DaveChen. The reason we're doing this is for the patrons, and so thanks to all the folks at patreon.com/DaveChen for your support. Really, really appreciate it. And yeah, keep it tuned into patreon.com/DaveChen. Keep it tuned into decodingeverything.com. Keep it tuned into this YouTube channel at youtube.com/DaveChensky for more movie coverage. It's going to be a huge, huge summer of movies, and I'll be talking about pretty much every single one of them across all of those channels. So thank you, Joy, for joining me for this and for this great idea. And we'll be back soon, probably to talk about Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. So until then, goodbye.